Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
Peter and Dave, they're on the mic, so alright. Join the ride, it's gonna feel just right.
Welcome back to the Pulse Community Podcast. I'm Peter McCulley. The springtime calendar is ticking along as the Easter weekend is now behind us. And here on Mid-Vancouver Island, gardeners are among the busiest people around.
Tell me about it. I'm Dave Graham. Some call me Farmer Dave now.
Really?
Well, no, but they might once they get a look at my back 40.
You don't have a back 40, Dave.
Those are just distracting details, Peter, and I can't be distracted from my job, my focus as a mint farmer.
You're getting maxed out caring for a pot of mint, Dave?
Are you kidding? You have the pot, and then there's all the mint, and I suppose there's some water and dirt and stuff. There's a lot going on. Plus, I have another project going. I'm working on cultivating something else altogether.
Are you finally going to start that pot of rosemary?
Oh, even better. I'm cultivating a whole pile of goodwill with my neighbor who has planted an entire veggie garden. I tell you, raised beds, trellises, the whole production. Oh, I can almost taste her carrots now.
Well, good luck with that, Dave. Today in the podcast, we have a couple of remarkable guests. First, Dr. Herdman Royal, a pathologist now practicing at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. She's one of more than 400 American healthcare professionals who have made the move to British Columbia in the past year.
I think it's a misconception that in the U.S. it's completely different and every single person has access to care, including primary care. That is true if you have money or if you have insurance. The only place that has to treat you is the ER. Otherwise, you can absolutely be turned away from anywhere else if you can't pay. Much of the care that's given there by physicians and other healthcare providers is uncompensated.
Well, that puts things in perspective. When we talk about healthcare challenges here, it's a very different conversation than what's happening south of the border. I'm glad Dr. Herdman Royal is here, and I'm glad she's talking about it.
Also joining us today, Greg Adams. He grew up in the Cowichan Valley, laced up skates in the NHL, and after retirement, built something that nobody saw coming, a world-class music festival right here on Vancouver Island. Greg Adams is the founder of Laketown Ranch and SunFest. And believe me, he doesn't sit still very long.
But we're just about ready to start our next big phase, which is going to be an RV park up the hill. We're also doing small homes, like park model homes, up the hill as well. That whole community will also share a swimming pool, hot tub. There'll be water slides and a splash park for kids. So we're really doing a nice, and it's going to have a clubhouse with a bistro. It'll also have a gym in it. And so that the year-round residents and the park models will have a place to gather, but also a place to be healthy.
A bistro and a water slide. Now that's giving me ideas for my backyard. Although that means I might have to give up on mint farming. So, Peter, one of the big partners in our community is the SOS, the Society of Organized Services. They have a new initiative.
That's right, Dave. When families are supported, the whole community thrives. That's what's behind the SOS For Our Families campaign. You can donate through the SOS website, and you can support them by teeing off the first ever SOS For Our Community Golf Tournament, June 6th at Morningstar Golf Club. For $180 a person, you'll get the driving range, 18 holes of golf, a cart, buffet dinner, on-course challenges, and a chance to win a brand new vehicle from Parksville Chrysler. Plus, there's a silent auction with great local items.
Oh, that sounds like a great time at the Championship Golf Course in Parksville. That's something we golfers value. Yeah, I consider myself a golfer. Well, just as I'm a farmer, I go in with lots of enthusiasm, and otherwise, I generally don't know what I'm doing. Oh, wait, that describes my whole life.
I'm looking for Troy Atchison of Black Creek. Is this Troy's house?
Yeah, speaking.
Troy, it's Peter McCulley calling from the Pulse Community Podcast.
Oh, yeah. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm calling because Dave and Marilyn just pulled your name from the draw drum, and you have won a 4-day pass for two to SunFest.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Because I was actually thinking about just purchasing single day tickets, but now that takes it off the plate there. That's great.
And it's super entertainment. Like if you had to just go for one day, I don't know, who would you be going for?
Oh, I was thinking about going to see John Party.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Riley Green's pretty good as well.
And now you can go and see Riley Green and the James Barker Band and Hannah McFarland and Tyler Joe Miller and Tyler Hubbard. And
That's fantastic. I'm really thrilled about winning those tickets too. That's good. Thank you very much.
oh, you're quite welcome. And I happened to take a peek at your Facebook page. You're a motorcycle guy, right?
Yeah, I got a Harley, like riding. So actually, because of all the traffic and stuff going to those events, it's easier to get in and out with a Harley.
And you'll have somebody on the back, obviously.
I hope so. I probably will now. Next thing I got tickets to it. So thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Drive
Great.
safely. Keep the shiny side up.
Cheers.
There's exciting news for book lovers. Fireside Books in Parksville now has a second location in Port Alberni. The Bookworm. Used books are just $5 or less. The Bookworm on the corner of Redford and Anderson opens 7 days a week from 10 to 5. Building your personal library for less. Fireside Books at 464 Island Highway East in Parksville is a book dragon's dream come true. Browse their extensive collections 7 days a week. Both locations make growing your personal library easier than ever. New and used books and so much more. Order online at firesidebooks.ca and pick up at either location. Details available online. Ask about returning books for a book credit. Fireside Books and the Bookworm. 2 locations, one amazing adventure in browsing.
On a future edition of the podcast, we'll be chatting with Brad Merritt of 5440. The band will be playing for the inaugural Rock the Course in Qualicum Beach.
We'll also chat with Aaron Cully Drake. He's an author who can tell us the ups and downs of writing a book using artificial intelligence. I tried to use AI to help me plan out a garden, and it suggested that perhaps I might prefer a nice game of chess. I don't know what to make of that.
We'll hear from Sarah Ronald about what's coming up at the Parksville Museum, including a live music concert series.
Chris Buck of the Chris Buck Band will be stopping by to tell us about the Boots and Boats Singer-Songwriter Festival in the news.
Stay tuned to the podcast, our website, and social pages for our upcoming giveaways. We have a whole summer of prizes planned.
Oh, yeah, there will be tickets for 5440, April Wine, and Beach Fest Rocks. Oh, it's going to be a busy time for our prize department, so be alert. Right now, it's time for our first guest. Here's Marilyn.
Dr. Anne Herdman Royal is a pathologist now practicing at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital, one of more than 400 American healthcare professionals who have made the move to British Columbia in the past year. She came from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a mass shooting at the hospital where she worked became the moment that changed everything. She's here today to talk about that decision, what she left behind, and what she's found on Vancouver Island.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast today, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
You moved from Tulsa, Oklahoma to work in Nanaimo. How did you hear about Vancouver Island and Nanaimo in particular?
My husband and I have always loved the Pacific Northwest in general. So Oregon, Washington State, the weather, the vibes, all of that kind of fits with us. And my husband is really into outdoor activities and nature. He had heard about Vancouver Island, I think, in some of his outside magazine and such. So when we first started talking about Canada, that was his first go-to place. We thought we were going to be interested in Victoria. When I was going through the process, a friend of mine is a pathologist and had taken a job here in Nanaimo, and she said, yes, Victoria's nice, but please take a look at Nanaimo. It's really beautiful, but it's not as crowded. The traffic's not as bad. Please take a look. And I'm so glad that I did.
Now, Tulsa, as I understand it, is a landlocked mid-American city. What's life like in Tulsa?
Yes, you are correct. It is landlocked for sure. There's no good seafood there. I would describe Oklahoma in general as a religiously conservative, politically conservative, a cluster of people that are very like-minded in that way. Oklahoma is a very rural state, and it has two city centers, with Tulsa being one of them. So it's a population center of about 1 million people, so it's not super small. There are certainly pockets of culture and community that made us feel comfortable. We had to look really hard to find it. I think it's described as a family-friendly city. I also think that a lot of that can also depend on your own political leanings and such. And so we never really felt particularly comfortable there. I would describe it as the epitome of suburban sprawl. There's lots of shopping and things like that, but it's a little lighter on the cultural activities and certainly very light on the outdoor recreation offerings.
Now, you're a pathologist. Could you take us through the education process and what exactly a pathologist does?
We're medical doctors, just your internist, your surgeon, et cetera. So we have a 4-year undergraduate degree and a 4-year medical degree. I'd have to check. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same in Canada as it is in the US. It's a 4-year residency, which involves learning anatomic pathology and clinical pathology. Anatomic being tissues of the body, and then the clinical pathology is more oriented towards the laboratory. So any body fluid, blood, urine, et cetera, that's tested, pathologist oversees those testing. I am more of an anatomic pathologist, and in Canada, those two things are siloed separately from one another. I did 2 fellowships. Pathologists in training now do at least 1 fellowship. So I have one in surgical pathology and one in GI and liver pathology specialty. Any tissues removed in endoscopy, surgery, a fine needle aspiration, a thyroid nodule or something like that. Our staff turns those tissues into glass slides, and then we look at them under the microscope and make diagnoses. What we end up doing helps not only just the diagnosis, but guiding treatment and management for patient care, particularly in the area of, say, cancer diagnoses. We will define the parameters of the patient's cancer to help the oncologist and the radiation oncologist do their job. A lot of times people say the pathologist is the doctor's doctor because we're the final arbiter of what is going on in the patient. And a lot of times we are able to answer questions that no other doctor can answer because we are right there in the heart of the problem.
Well, that's why you're here today.
Yeah, true.
Now, in reading your story, I understand that June 1st, 2022 was the day that was a turning point for you. What happened that day?
Yes, awful day in Tulsa at the hospital where I was working, very large hospital. We got a notification that the hospital was on lockdown and there was an active shooter on campus. No further information at the time. Come to find out that in the orthopedic office, the outpatient clinic, a patient of one of the orthopedic surgeons who was unhappy with his outcome of his surgery that was about a week before that, purchased firearms that day and came in and killed 2 doctors, Dr. Preston Phillips and Dr. Stephanie Hewson, killed a patient, William Love, a receptionist in the office, Amanda Glenn. So killed 4 people and then himself. It was just terrifying. We had no idea what was going on, where the shooter was. We could look out the window and see 50-some emergency vehicles and police cars, and it was just absolute chaos, and it was just terrifying. When I was able to get out of there that evening, I went straight home, and I told my husband, this is it. We have got to get out of here. I cannot do this anymore. And he agreed with me.
You applied for work in British Columbia the day after the shooting. How fast did things actually move from the time you filled out the application to, let's say, arriving in Nanaimo? What was the credentialing and the immigration process like?
My husband and I had been half-heartedly talking about leaving the country before, so I had looked at some job listings previously, and so I went straight to the listings and found one on Vancouver Island, and I emailed. That's how I found out about Health Match BC. I was told that I had to register with them first and do that. So I researched that. And the next day I got in contact with them. We had a meeting a week later, got started with all of the red tape that you have to cut through to get here, which is a lot. At the time, this was 2022, the process was taking anywhere from 12 to 18 months, more towards the 18 months. You had to do things both on a national, federal level, and then also lots of things with BC. And it was just seemingly endless tasks to complete, while, of course, I'm still working full time and managing at home and all of that. We thought it was going to be about a 2 year process for us because we wanted to shore up retirement accounts and things like that on the U.S. side of things before we moved. It turned out to actually end up being around 2.5 years when all was said and done, a lot because of some red tape that has been cut since then for current people in this process, which is great. What that was, I had to register with the Royal College on a federal level. They had to sort of repeat some of the things that I already had completed and say, yes, we approve of you. You are qualified to do this. And the problem with it turned out to be that they only accept certain specialties during 2-month windows twice a year. And I had missed the window by 2 weeks. So I had to wait 6 more months sitting there doing nothing just for that letter to come. And the letter finally came, and then I was able to get moving again. So we would have been here May or June 2025, but we didn't get to arrive until September 2025 because of that. The process now, though, they have decided that if you've completed residency that includes 4 years of postgraduate training, you're qualified, and they don't require that Royal College stamp of approval anymore. The process seems to take anywhere from 6 months if you're really super motivated to more like about 12 months for doctors. I think it's a lot shorter for nurses and other healthcare professionals, though.
And then you landed on an island in the Pacific. What was your first real where am I moment when you arrived in Nanaimo?
I think it was actually on the ferry. My daughter and I were practically jumping up and down with excitement, just looking around at the beauty around us. I cannot believe we are here. We have 3 dogs, and we had them with us out on the pet area deck at the top of the ferry. People were coming up to us because we have a greyhound and a whippet and then a little floofy pup. So they were popular, and people were coming up and starting conversations. And that, too, was unusual to us because, and it turns out to be very Canadian, I think, is we've just had so many conversations with strangers that aren't just passing pleasantries, but people were really interested in what we were doing there. And I told them, and they could not believe, oh, we're getting another doctor. They were so excited. And it just felt so Canadian and different from what we were used to. I think that's when it hit me like, oh, we're finally doing it. We finally are coming here, and it's happening.
We're a friendly bunch.
Yes, you are.
Now, how is your daughter taking the life here? School, friends, the island?
She loves it. She's 10 and about to be 11. We're lucky because she's an outgoing type. She was nervous leaving her friends, as one would expect, but she found a friendly, open, welcoming atmosphere at her school very easily. It's like she's always been here. She was able to integrate right into the curriculum just fine. She just loves it. She's just like us. She says, I don't want to be anywhere else.
I'd like to get your perspective on the differences between the Canadian system and the American system for patients and for health professionals.
I would first say that the quality and standard of care is very similar to what I am used to in the U.S. Not to say that the U.S. is the best, but maybe the delivery of healthcare has some big issues. But I think the quality of healthcare in the U.S., I think, known to be pretty good. And I think it is excellent here in Canada. I have been impressed with the offerings of tests and specialists available, at least in Nanaimo, which is all I can speak to. I have not seen any major gaps in availability of care. Now, access to the care, that's probably a different story. And I think that's well known to be a problem that people are frustrated with in Canada. I can speak to being the pathology end of things and seeing where I get a specimen that's the diagnostic biopsy of that pathologic entity. Then I get the follow-up resection surgery for that entity. The serious things like cancer or other very serious conditions such as autoimmune hepatitis or things that are very medically serious, urgent, or emergent, I don't see any difference in the timeline of patient care. And I can say that for sure. I do think that there are definitely long wait times for things that are considered non-urgent or elective. I have not personally experienced that, but I've heard lots of stories, and I think it's true of too long of wait times. Primary care, I think that a lot of inroads are being made, certainly now. It's definitely a lot of room for improvement. I will say that in the US, I think it's a misconception that in the US, it's completely different and every single person has access to care, including primary care. That is true if you have money or if you have insurance. There are so many uninsured or very underinsured people in the US that don't have access to primary care either. They basically are doing the same thing as Canadians, going to an urgent care or using telehealth services to try to get medications and all the patches that are in place to try to deliver at least a little bit of care to people. That's the same in the United States. The only place that has to treat you is the ER. Otherwise, you can absolutely be turned away from anywhere else if you can't pay. Much of the care that's given there by physicians and other healthcare providers is uncompensated. I would say it might be different in the way that the access is challenging, but it's just as challenging for folks in the United States to get healthcare, particularly primary care, as it is here.
Now, Anne, you've spoken about women's rights and bodily autonomy as one of the factors in your decision to move here.
Absolutely. I have a daughter. Whether you have a daughter or you are a daughter, has loved ones that are going to need medical care for themselves. What has happened in the United States over the past several years, but especially the last couple of years, it has just become frankly dangerous, in my opinion, to have a working uterus in the United States, especially in some of the quote red states where the religious and political conservatives have made it nearly impossible to get care when it's needed because of religious reasons. It's dangerous. People are dying in emergency room parking lots because they have an ectopic pregnancy that is not viable under any circumstances, but it still has a heartbeat. They're turned away. That is unconscionable to me. With some of the most recent changes politically, where we were living in Oklahoma, if I myself had an obstetric emergency, or certainly if my daughter ended up having one, it would be a 6-hour trip to get to the nearest place where I would be sure that we would be taken care of. And that's just absolutely unacceptable in the United States, the quote, richest nation in the world. It feels threatening to me all the time. I just did not feel comfortable or safe there anymore, and certainly not for our daughter. We have to do better. It's not acceptable.
Are you hearing from American doctors and nurses that you might know or they know of you asking how to make the same move? If so, what do you tell them? What do they want to know?
I hear from people all the time, people I know and strangers that have heard my story, or I chime in on some of the social media pages where doctors congregate. There is so much interest in making a move outside of the United States, but particularly to Canada because it's so close to the US, so they can have proximity to their families. This past week, 3 people I've heard from, 1 nurse and 2 physicians, who are interested in Canada and BC in particular. I feel like it is an obligation of mine now that I've made it to reach back and help more people. It helps Canada and it helps disillusioned physicians as well to do the same thing. Now that I've stumbled through it, I have a lot more insight into a better way to get through the process. So I try to figure out who's really serious, and the ones that are really serious, I send them as much information as I can about how to get started, how to bypass some of the red tape that is maybe unnecessarily complicated. It's been amazing to see how much interest there's been. I have a pathologist friend interviewing next week for a Campbell River job. She feels so much more empowered because she knows that I've done it. So it makes me feel good that I can help other people and help Canada at the same time, one person at a time.
There's over 400 American healthcare professionals that have now moved to BC, and about 100 of them right here on Vancouver Island. The way you talk sounds like you're pretty happy with the move.
It is the best thing we've ever done as a family, as an individual, as a married couple. There's no single thing that we have done that is better than this decision. Vancouver Island is incredible. It's got to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. We constantly are just delighted. It's like living in a fairyland sometimes, some of the vistas that we see and the forests and all of that. It's unbelievable. At the same time, Nanaimo is a great community. There's so much to do. We lack nothing. All the sort of basic things you have to do in life, there's nothing missing here. The people are so friendly. My husband regularly is talking about how he can't believe how easy it is to get out there and find people who share common interests. And he spends so much time out and about now with people, and it still makes me laugh because he's pretty introverted. I don't know what it is. It's something about this place. It just makes it easy to talk to people. We're just enjoying life, and I have so much more time in my non-work life now to get out and enjoy the surroundings, and I'm just so happy. It's just been the best thing.
Dr. Ann, thank you for taking some time to chat with us today and talk to us about the differences in the systems. I hope to bump into you sometime, maybe for a coffee, certainly not professionally.
Yes, absolutely. That would be great. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Dr. Ann Herdman Royal, and a story that puts so much into perspective. Her path here was not easy, and yet here she is, contributing to healthcare on Vancouver Island and building a new life, and we are glad she made the trip.
We appreciate your feedback on anything you hear on the Pulse Community Podcast. Our website has the contact links as well as links to our growing community of podcasters, including Cindy Thompson of Parksville, encouraging us not to just survive, but to thrive with her podcast, A Resilience Project.
Then we have Parksville councillors Joel Grenz and Sean Wood offering a behind-the-scenes look at how municipal politics works in the Nonpartisan Hacks. Plus, we've added Vancouver Island webcam links to our website, as well as links to, well, all of our podcasts, events, and contests, all at thepulsecommunity.ca.
You can find us on Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, TikTok, and YouTube. We're also on Facebook and Instagram.
When families are supported, our whole community thrives. That's why SOS launched For Our Families, a campaign dedicated to keeping essential and enriching SOS child, youth, and family programs open, accessible, and vibrant. You can make a donation through the SOS website, and you can help by teeing off at the first ever SOS For Our Community Golf Tournament, June 6th at Morning Star Golf Club. For just $180 per person, enjoy the driving range, 18 holes of golf, a golf cart, buffet dinner, on-course challenges, the chance to win a brand new vehicle from Parksville Chrysler, and other great prizes. Bid on great local items in the silent auction. Support local children and youth. Strengthen local families. Learn more at sosd69.com.
Ian Lindsay of Lindsay and Associates has played an active role in the local community since 1979. He has been with RE/MAX, Vancouver Island's most advanced real estate business network, since 1996, marketing and selling residential, rural, strata, recreational, investment, and project development real estate. You'll find true real estate professionals at ianlindsay.ca.
I wanted to mention my thanks to all the volunteers at Milner Gardens for the work that they do. I got to the gardens over the Easter weekend. Oh, it was just such a delight with the sights and sounds of all the families and the kids as they search for the bunnies. And as I wandered about, I wondered how many visitors knew that royalty had stayed there. And then I got to thinking about how many people who live near have never even visited this gem in our midst.
Well, when we travel, the attractions we visit are special, but it's easy to take for granted something that's just a few minutes drive away.
It reminds me of when I lived in London, England as a kid. When we found out we were going to be returning to Canada, there was this mad dash to take in all the sights and attractions that we never bothered about before. So a reminder, just get out there and enjoy what our local attractions have to offer. All right, our next guest is behind one of the island's biggest annual musical attractions. Here's Marilyn.
Greg Adams grew up in the Cowichan Valley, laced up skates in the NHL, and then came home and built something nobody saw coming, a world-class music festival on Vancouver Island. Greg Adams is the founder of Laketown Ranch and SunFest, as well as the Laketown Benevolent Society, which has now donated over $1 million to community causes.
Thanks for taking time for us today, Greg.
It's nice to be here. Glad to meet you.
We really want to talk about a couple of your babies, the Laketown Ranch, where you are at the moment, and SunFest, but I'd like to talk a little hockey first. You played 545 games in the NHL, undrafted, which is virtually unheard of today. So my question is, when you were growing up in the Cowichan Valley, how realistic did a professional hockey career seem, and who were those folks that believed in you before you actually believed in yourself?
Realistically, I think when you're young, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, you're always fooling yourself, think you can play in the NHL, because every time you play road hockey, you're out there being Bobby Orr. You play ball hockey in the basement, and you're being Bobby Orr. Can you see a theme here? My favorite player? It usually starts about 14, 15, and I was a bit of a late bloomer because I didn't play hockey for 2 years when we moved to Canberra River. When I was 10 and 11 years old, I didn't play hockey because they didn't have a rink yet. Starting about 15 years old, I started to catch up. I got a brother and a sister that always believed in me. I think my parents did. Family members that helped and believed in you, but it's a long shot when you're 16, 17, think you're going to make the NHL. By about 19 or 20, I knew I had a shot to have a career.
Now, you played alongside and against some genuinely legendary Vancouver Island hockey names, the Cordnell brothers, Jeff and Russ, both from Duncan, of course, and there's a funny story about another Greg Adams who played for the Canucks at the same time you did. So I wonder if you could untangle for our listeners what it was like to be part of that generation of island-raised NHLers.
I was a little bit ahead of Jeff and Russ and some of the other guys that broke in. Dougie Bodger was right behind me by a few years. So we had a few guys from the island make it. In the 60s, it was kind of like a Ronnie Andruff and a few guys like that, a bit of a career in the NHL. But it's a small community of the island, so we're all friends. We're all alumni, if not through teams, through the NHL. We see each other fairly often. The other Greg Adams, I like to tell everyone, the good-looking, talented one, I'm the other one. Gus is an absolutely wonderful friend, a wonderful guy. He's had a great career. He's from Nelson originally, and his dad's name was Gus, so he kind of landed the nickname. My fault, because we both ended up on the same team. It was right at the end of my career, and we ended up on the Canucks together for a short period of time. But lots of misadventures over the years where my skates got sent to him and some of his paperwork got sent to me and a lot of little things. Since COVID, there's been a lot of hockey card enthusiasts, and I get 10 hockey cards a month, to sign, and 3 out of the 10 are the other Greg every time. He gets a couple of mine, but he's definitely higher up the food chain when it comes to hockey cards. And like I say, so there's good friend, lots of overlap. We got a lot of really good friends in common. But like I say, small alumni here on Vancouver Island, that's for sure.
Weren't you involved in a trade that involved Jeff Cordnell?
I was traded early in my career in 82-ish, 83, for Torrey Robertson, who's from Victoria, wonderful guy. He lives down in Victoria now. I was in Hartford. He was in Washington. We got traded for each other. And then about 5 years later, I got traded to Edmonton, and Jeff Cordnell got traded to Washington Capitals. I don't know. There's not a lot of guys that have been traded twice for ex-teammates, but it's just how it works out.
You were traded to the Oilers. I think that was the 88-89 season. a team that had just won the Cup. They still had Messier, Curry, Anderson, Grant Fuhr. What was it like to walk into that locker room?
It was very different because I came from Washington, where I'd been for 5 years, was really a part of the team for a lot of years there, and had the most success I had in hockey was with Washington. And that was where my alumni is and where a bulk of my career was. I got traded to Edmonton. They had just won 4 Stanley Cups. The average age on the team was 25. They had, like you say, the Messiers, the Currys, all those guys, but almost half the team was single. They were rock stars in that town. They just won 4 Stanley Cups. I come in, I'm married for 9 years, and I've got 2 little boys. And the guys were wonderful. Mark Messier, I feel bad. He takes such a hit in Vancouver, people not happy with his time in Vancouver. I played with him for 3/4 of a year. He is exactly what he is, a true gentleman. He can get 19 other guys to go through a wall with him. He is such a leader, just a quality guy. It was a tough fit. I was only there for 3/4 of a year. They were in turmoil because Wayne Gretzky had been traded like a month before I got there. There was just a funk over the whole team. They just lost their big brother. And what did they do? A year later, they won another Stanley Cup. So Glenn Sather and Messier and those guys shows you the quality of what that team was.
Now, 10 years in the pros took you all over North America, obviously, and I wonder how those years living in the United States, attending festivals, seeing how entertainment works, how that planted the seed for what eventually became SunFest.
My generation, there was only 21 teams. With the entertainment overlap, everyone I've ever met in entertainment, and we've met a lot over the years, because they'd come in and use our facility. I remember once I was in Hartford. We came in after a road trip and dropped our stuff off, and you could hear the concert prep going on. It was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And I walked out, and the arena was all set up, and there was one guy on stage. They were doing the sound check, and he played the guitar, and it was incredible. And he played the guitar, and then he walked over and he played the piano. And then he went over to the drums, and then he went over to the bass. He played 5 or 6 instruments. I was mesmerized watching him, and I finally recognized one of the guys that's like an usher, and he was there as security. And I went over and I went, "Who is this guy?" He goes, "I don't know, some guy called Prince. But boy, is he ever good." You know, we would overlap so often. I think I saw Billy Joel like 7 times. They would use our facility, and they would build the stage. They bring in all the production, the rigging. You'd see the front of house. And I was always interested in how it happened. So I'd always be out there. I am, and I've always been blue collar guy. So I was always out there interested in how they were doing things. And I'd be out there with all the guys who were rigging and just asking questions. And so I just kind of learned and got interested in all. But where it really turned was Judy and I took the 3 boys down in the spring of 1999 or something like that. And we took them down to Florida to go to Disney World. And when we were down there, we went to Tampa and saw a little festival. It was a 1-day festival in a park put on by Tampa, and it was 3 Dog Night. To anyone listening to this podcast under 40 years old, they won't know who it is. Basically, they had 10 anthems. All of us that were born in the 60s and 70s knows all the songs. We just sat there and put out a blanket, and it was a wine and rib fest. And 3 Dog Night came out and played, and I kind of looked at it, and I looked at my wife, Judy, and go, "Why don't we have this at home?" That's where it started. I came back home, and I phoned Brian Burke, who was my go-to guy a lot of times when I didn't have a connection. I phoned Berkey and said, "Who do we know in entertainment?" He put me in touch with Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen gave me a name for the Feldman Group. 6 months later, we had our first concert with 5440 in a field at a wonderful little place in Duncan called Providence Farm. And we were there for 3 years till we grew out of it. But the first show was about 950 people and 5440. It was a fun night. And that was my first festival.
Now, SunFest moved from Providence Farm to Avalon Farm to the Cowichan Exhibition Grounds, and you eventually outgrew all of them. At what point did you realize the only way forward to keep this thing rolling was to build your own place? And how daunting was that?
From my perspective, not daunting at all, but from my wife's perspective, extremely daunting, because she sees me leave for 18 hours a day sometimes. But almost everything I've done, the only thing I've done intentionally was trying to play in the NHL and also the Tim Hortons franchise. Everything else I've done, I've just been interested in. I've started to have some knowledge and some success in what we're doing, such as the festival business. And then it just grew. And we had a CEO of Tim Hortons. It was wonderful, Paul House. And he said one day, one of the toughest things to do is survive your success. That kind of describes what happened with SunFest. We had a small festival in the early 2000s, Canadiana and all the rest of it, classic rock, and everyone's enjoying it. And then I had an opportunity to bring in Johnny Reed. I brought him in. It doubled in 1 year because of country. And this was when country was taken off in 2010. So the next year, I made it kind of all country, and it went up again. Travis Tritt, a few others. But the next year, I brought in Alan Jackson. We sold the thing out. This was when we were at the Couch and Exhibition Grounds. We went from Alan Jackson to Tim McGraw to Keith Urban in 3 years. At each one of the places we were at, with the owners, with the societies that owned it, we gave back a lot, helped a lot, raised their profile, but we were politely asked to leave 3 times. We just outgrew it. And I understood it. Like I say, the exhibition ground and some of the people that we work with there, just wonderful friends, wonderful people, but you can't put something too big into something that doesn't fit. We found the land at Lake Cowichan. With the growth, we had to do it. But then when I did it, I built a facility that I thought would be big enough for Paul McCartney or, like last year, Nickelback. And the facility is wonderful. Now you just got to try to find the artists and put all the schedules together. And SunFest we've had success with, and we are starting to get more success with some of the individual bands to do like a one-night show.
Now, Mike Hahn, who is your festival coordinator, was telling us that getting big-name American artists to come to a remote location on Vancouver Island is genuinely difficult unless you're able to tap into the concert circuit that these artists may already be on.
There's a lot of moving parts, and people just think, oh, we'll get this band. We were dealing this year months and months ago, and we felt we were close. We have what's called deal points. So we put in an offer and they come back and we're working on the deal points. When we start working on the deal points, which is production and timing and scheduling and all the rest of it, 9 times out of 10, we're going to land that band. We were already at the deal points with the Foo Fighters. It just went boom, sideways. They signed to do 4 stadiums, all in Western Canada. You can't run a stadium tour and then downsize it. And our amphitheater holds 16,000 people, but stadiums are built for 45,000. Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton, the other place they go, Vancouver, et cetera. So that happens at times where you think you got something come together, you're putting your energy into it, and it just goes sideways. It happens many times, and other times, boom, you put an offer in, Gwen Stefani, and we land it. It's been challenging this year, and it's a little bit of FIFA, a little bit of in Vancouver in August and early September. There is 11 shows that are going to average 17,000 to 45,000 people. So I made the decision, if the right thing didn't come up, we weren't going to do it, and we're really going to focus on 2027, and that's where we're at.
Have you had time, Greg, to actually appreciate the scale of what you've created here?
That's a question that gets asked a lot. Yes, in my own way, but actually no, because I've always been driven to what's next. I'm always excited about the next thing. How can I make something better? I just enjoy the challenge of it. It's just the way I'm wired. Those that are closest around me understand, and other people might like, oh, all he does is work. You know what? I just came back from a month in New Zealand. I'm heading down to a couple of festivals for 2 weeks down south. So, you know, and I think I got a pretty good balance, but at the same time, to sit back and pat myself on the back, no, I'd rather take that energy to try and doing it better every time.
Still, it must be a very satisfying feeling when you're sitting up at the top bleachers watching Nickelback, something that you've helped put together for the folks on the island, and must be a very satisfying feeling.
It is, and I've got a good friend who used to have the Chevy dealership. He owns a Honda dealership, Peter Balger in town. He's a good friend, mentor, and he's a big boy. He's 6'6", so I don't usually feel small. And he'll throw his arm around me and like, look at this, enjoy it. And I will with him for a minute and a half, and then I'll see something I need to go. I spent a half an hour in Nickelback walking around the whole site looking at how it was running, how we could do things different on a large show. I did enjoy it. I watched it for half an hour, but I spent the rest of the time walking around to see what we could do different, what we could do better next time.
He's a great guy. Say hi to him for me. The funniest thing I ever saw was Peter trying to get into an old Corvette.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's raced for years. He's run 24 hours at Daytona and stuff like that. I think they won it. Him and Ron Fellows. He's had some good success. I went down and watched him run LA, and it was the Indy carts were on, and they were the pre-show too. And it was pretty cool. He's had a lot of success with it, and he enjoys it.
Now, one of the things I understand is that you source about 90% of your supplies locally for SunFest and bring in up to 300 local workers and volunteers for each of the festivals. Has the Cowichan Valley community given that support back?
The majority of it, absolutely. The size and scope of it, sometimes people may be a little intimidated by it. It's getting better and better. We've got Mike now lives up in this community. Melissa, who's basically our chief operating officer, lives up here now. They're getting immersed in this community and realizing that our doors open. It's helped a lot. And I think people realize we give a lot back. I'd source 100% of it if you can, but I can't get the production meaning light and sound and video. I can't get all of that to the standard that's required for the large artists. I can't get it on Vancouver Island. And I know there is wonderful production companies on the island I've worked with in the past when the shows are smaller, but once you get to be a certain size, the requirements of the artist, you have to meet those requirements or they won't play the show.
Greg, I wanted to ask you about the Lake Town Benevolent Society. Folks outside of the valley may not be that familiar with it. It's now donated over $1 million to community causes, children's programs, health initiatives, scholarships. How did all of that come about?
I think that just came about when we first started doing it. Almost anything we do, any business you're in, you always want to give back to the community that's supporting you. And I've been in this community since 1965. I moved to Crofton. So I've been here now for 60 years. And I saw my father and my brother and sister and brother-in-law and everyone giving back to sports and giving back to community. It's just bred into us. And it's not just our family. It's a small town here. Cops for Cancer, the bike ride goes through town. And per capita, Duncan supports as much or more than anyone. It's a wonderful community and it's a very giving community. So one of the things that's nice is in the festival business, there's so many ancillaries, so many little things on the side where we can hold a 50-50. A lot of places don't. We hold a 50-50. Half the money goes to the winner. The other half of the money we're able to put out to charities. That in itself is raising $40,000, $50,000 a year. I decided to help with the recycle program and really try and do the best we could on that. We decided to take all bottles, all the cans, everything, and we donate that every year back, which really helps all the people here make sure that they're recycling and they're doing all the right things. We ended up putting 15, 20, 25 grand a year back into charity. So just those two items, is $60,000, $70,000 a year. We also, throughout the year, we will donate tickets to all different charities who would end up raffling them or selling them. We just did the Cowichan Hospital Foundation, and 2 of our tickets sold for $1,700 because I just talked to the individual at the bottom. And he was excited to give the money to charity. So there's $1,700 right there. You add that up, we do $40,000, $50,000 worth of ticket donations a year that raises a lot of money for charities as well. We have a lot of opportunities, a lot of ways here that we can help. Everything from bottles and cans to 50-50. Our benevolent fund brings a lot of money in, and then we donate it back, and we do it all in the Cowichan Valley.
Greg, what's the vision, the full build-out vision for the Lake Town Ranch and the surrounding property, and how far along are you on the plan?
Right now, probably about 25%. The actual build, the amphitheater is really close. We're always fine-tuning, making a few improvements. People will see the front end that we've done some landscaping, a little bit of redesign, making things easier in the front, added a few more amenities. The second phase, which has taken time, it's just bureaucracy and COVID and things take time, but we're just about ready to start our next big phase, which is going to be an RV park up the hill. We're also doing small homes like park model homes up the hill as well. That whole community will also share a swimming pool, hot tub. There'll be water slides and a splash park for kids. So we're really doing a nice, and it's going to have a clubhouse with a bistro. It'll also have a gym in it. And so that the year-round residents and the park models will have a place to gather, but also a place to be healthy. We've developed over 10 kilometers of hiking and biking trails on our property. 265 acres gives you a lot of opportunity to do things. And half of our trails were already pre-developed by logging that was done on the site twice in the last 100 years. So little skidder roads, but also elk that walk through have made a lot of trails for us, and we've just improved them. So we'll share them with the elk, and when they come, we'll just get off the trail. We've already done some of the work, and we anticipated the RV park and things come together in early 2027. It might be fall of 2027, 2028. It'll be really going. It's taken us a little longer than we wanted. Like I say, hopefully fall of 2027, things are rolling.
It sounds pretty exciting, Greg. I wanted to go back to something you mentioned about moving to Crofton in 1965. The mill closed in December of 2025, putting 350 people out of work. So, as someone who understands the resource industry, jobs, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you heard that news?
I could be totally offside on this, but I'll believe it's totally closed maybe in 5 years from now. The deep harbor, the assets that are there, possibly someone else will come in and see if it gets going again. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, major disruption to a lot of lives. I don't want to diminish it in absolutely any way, because it is very impactful to those 350 people, plus people that provided to the mill as well, because you got a lot of subcontractors, a lot of work. Having said that, we've diversified a lot in the valley the last 10, 20, 30 years in BC in general. My dad worked there in 1965, and there was probably 1,500 people working there. So by the end, there was 300-400 people. So the good news is it's terrible for them. The good news is it doesn't have quite the impact it would have 10 or 20 years ago.
Greg, you've been quite generous with your time today and chatting with us, and I wanted to leave you with one last question. Looking back on the kid from Crofton who wasn't drafted into the NHL and had to scrap for everything, what would you say to him now?
Honestly, you know what? I've been very fortunate to grow up in a small community. I mean, I could name you 20 people that were so influential in my life. And then I was also fortunate that I played hockey in the 80s. Pat Quinn's as my first coach, and the Brian Burks and the Brian Murrays and David Coyles and all the people. And I played with the Guy Lafleurs and Daryl Sittlers. And I know I'm name dropping, but just wonderful, influential people that I'm really fortunate with. I'm unfortunate I didn't make the money from the 90s and 2000s, but that's okay. I've done okay. I just say, you know what? Don't do anything different. Go out there. You're going to have a great ride. And like I say, I'm fortunate I grew up in a wonderful town, and I'm extremely fortunate I met a wonderful girl when I was 17 years old, and we've been together for 44 years, and it makes every day easy when she's beside me and helping raising our kids and our grandkids. I'd say it's going to be a wonderful ride, and just enjoy it. And that's what I've been doing. And I still got a ways to go, I hope.
Greg, keep the volume up and your stick on the ice.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Greg Adams, genuinely one of those people who makes you feel like you should be doing something with your life. He played in the NHL, and then he built a music festival, and then started giving millions away. Meanwhile, I'm wondering if a pot of mint might have been too much for me to take on. SunFest is going to be incredible this summer, and if you haven't been, maybe this is the year. Details in our story notes on our website.
That's where you'll also find Skookum Kid Stories with Captain Dave and the crew of the Mellow Submarine, and Peter and Gracie the Eskimo Dog. And our stories now offer coloring pages to go along with each new episode.
On this week's episode, Peter learns to ride a big bike, and Gracie isn't left out. And then there's our Radio Archaeology Classic Radio series featuring original episodes of Dragnet with Sergeant Joe Friday and Marshal Matt Dillon in Gunsmoke.
Follow all the podcasts, ours and our partners, plus contests and events through our website, thepulsecommunity.ca. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter and stay informed.
The way gas prices are going, keeping it local is going to become even more important. So here's what I'm thinking. Get yourself a visitor's guide to the area. Maybe come up with 1 or 2 or 5 places you've never been to or you haven't seen in ages, and lock in some visits over the next few months. Maybe the timing isn't great for a big trip to a distant location, so why not head out to a local or a regional attraction? It means spending less on travel and keeping our dollars on the island.
It's a big, beautiful spring out there, folks, so get out there and enjoy it.
And I'm wondering if anyone out there would be interested in adopting a pot of mint.
You're giving up on the farm, Dave?
Well, it's starting to grow, and I don't know what to do. Do they need little stakes to keep them straight, or do I have to trim or groom something? And maybe the sun exposure's wrong, or I'm watering wrong, and there's soil acidity to think about, probably water alkalinity or something. CO2 levels, oh, there's something. And plant food, I tell you, it's a lot. It's a big responsibility.
Dave, it's a pot of mint.
Which I have known since they were little sprouts. Now they're growing up, and I'm not sure I'm ready. I think I need to just peel off all my clothes and get in a good round of forest bathing.
Now, we talked about that. You remember? You get to keep your clothes on for that.
Bathing with your clothes on, it's counterintuitive. I'll try to remember that for the next time.
Here come Peter, here comes Dave. Oh, listen. Bringing stories, making waves. No missing. Spinning tales in the podcast cave. So sweet. Laughs and insights everywhere. What a treat.